Faustykins. How are you?
Yo. Oh, you're quiet. Why are you quiet?
Am I quiet? Am I? Am I got to point this down a little bit? Is that better?
Not massively. Weird.
Oh,
Maybe that's that pesky golden yawn.
it might be. Do you think they're working against us?
Probably.
Do you think they're capable?
I think that's how a headache feels, isn't it?
Do you think there's a ritual for that in the curriculum to work against the Fausty ones?
I'm sure. Can't imagine it's very effective, but
Well, it seems to be working. So, what are we talking about today, Mr. Chris? Golden yawn. Ooh.
I think you're going to make me slag off the ceremonial magicians again, aren't
The
you?
stuffy old ceremonial magicians. What have they been up to this century? Anything new?
I don't know. Are they all dead?
Well, I don't think every ceremonial magician's dead. No, I think that's just the necromancers.
Any of the good ones still alive? Okay, was that a better question, Liam?
How would you define good when it comes to ceremonial magicians? Do you mean good as in good versus evil? Do you mean the ones that hug trees and,
No,
try
I
to
don't
take
care
down
about that.
capitalism? Do you mean those ones?
No, I don't care about that at all.
Oh, well, what is your definition of good ceremonial magician?
Effective?
Effective or defective? Because a lot of the good ones that are left
Effective.
would be classed as defective.
Effective.
Effective means that
Yes.
they are efficient at doing magic and stuff.
I think effective as in good at doing reading from iPads.
Our first question, I know that because it's got this obscure kind of symbol. We are very big on symbolism in the occult world, called a question mark. Is it the end?
Okay.
Right? I thought the Golden Dawn was defunct. Well, interesting. There is a Golden Dawn, a Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn that still exists, the modern one.
They're just less gobby.
Apparently, is absolute shite and is full of completely inept magicians because they did not inherit anything actually worthwhile. Because a lot of the ideas with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, there's lots of secrets in that, and that they did not actually pass down the good secrets or the big secrets along before it ended. Whether that's true or whether that's not true, I don't know how else you would explain why the modern Hermetic of the Golden Dawn are so fucking shit at magic that they make some of the most simplest mistakes.
I blame the balding guy.
The balding guy.
Yeah, why can't I think of his Crowley?
Oh, Aleister Crowley. He was like late Golden Dawn though, wasn't he? He was late.
Yeah, like he's probably one of the reasons it died off.
Well, pretty much anything he turns his hand to ends up going to shit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite perplexing.
I blame his golden, what do you call him? Archangel. No?
No, he liked the alien, didn't he?
Holy...
The alien thing. Holy Guardian Angel, I think.
Holy Guardian Angel.
He did that Abramelin ritual and then he ran off halfway through because he thought that he could, Our Lady of Snakes. What the fuck? Does the modern Golden Dawn actually have magicians or just grifters collecting money from runes? Right, I think Our Lady of Snakes, that is somewhat magic, is it not? I mean, if they were to do a money manifestation, it reminds me of the days of, who was that other person that used to, pull money out of nowhere through just the power of speech? Miss Cleo, that's it. Miss Cleo could utter literal magical monies into existence. She'd just say something like, "Your husband's cheating on you." Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. If you want to know more, cross my palm.
Yeah. Crowley a shit sandwich? No. Was Crowley a shit sandwich, petulant one, or can he make a shit sandwich? I did hear
I'm sure he
that
makes a shit sandwich.
A fairly middle-classish background, so one would imagine he does not know how to make a sandwich. He probably has people to do that for him. Even when he made that little cult in Sicily, I believe it was, I would imagine he probably had people to do that for him there also. Did Crowley ever make a sandwich? I don't know.
Maybe the petulant one means a sandwich of people. You know, when you cram too many people into a sexual situation.
Definitely, that was, yeah, he's definitely made a man sandwich and a woman sandwich and a non-binary sandwich, maybe, I don't really know. So I suppose what we should talk about today is some form of education, because you did implement a rule at some point in the past about there being half an hour at least of education.
Yes. But
right,
you don't normally listen to my rules.
So take it away. Okay. Either take away the half hour of education or start it, as in take it away.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question because my brain is foggy.
It was Sicily. It was Sicily. I know, because was it the King of Italy kicked him out personally? Something like that. Chris's half an hour of education begins now. Is there a countdown timer?
I'm gonna start with a question for you.
A question?
What is the difference between the Golden Dawn and the Rosicrucians?
What's the difference between the Rosicrucians?
This isn't a bad joke. I actually am asking you a real question.
Is it a riddle? Well, both are in fact secret societies to a certain extent. And I think that you'd probably find some of one in another, if that makes sense. Okay. I think the whole point of the whole Rosicrucian thing is to work out.
You could find some Crowley in everybody, because he got around quite a bit.
Didn't he make cakes using bodily fluids? Helen, if anyone was to know anything about that, it would be you. I don't know what history book you're reading, but the answer is most probably.
Yeah. To be fair, if you were eating in his little sanctuary, there'd be bodily fluids on everything. So I don't think there was much chance of you avoiding the bodily fluids, regardless of whether or not you were eating or having a cup of tea.
You would probably actually need to get one of those wallpaper scrapers to scrape off the crust of from the sofa before you sat on it.
Wow. Anyway, Rosicrucians. Rosicrucians.
Rosicrucians are the ones that believe that basically, or the secrets, when you get up the higher echelons of it, I believe it has something to do with you are Jesus. Because there's this concept.
We are all Jesus, or me specifically?
Everyone, not just you. Okay. And the concept of microcosm and macrocosm, and that, like, the idea that Jesus is a magician or a person that, you know, is basically the light, the way, basically means that, unlike a lot of standard Christians, I guess, would believe that you're to worship you're to worship Jesus because Jesus is the Son of God. There's the idea that actually you're to emulate that path, you're to walk that path. So kind of like a standard. You know, when people put Joe Blogs on a form where you're supposed to write your name as an example of a name and where to write it, that'd be like Jesus. Yeah, you're supposed to do that. I believe at some point, you know, you've got a lot of crossover, because the Golden Dawn was very big on being very elitist. They didn't just allow any fucker in. Be very secret, and see very much trying to create a system of magical practice for, I guess you would call it, ascension, for climbing the tree. Hey, both. says someone. Hello.
That's from because I've got the Facebooky open.
Hmm.
That's from Amanda Jackson. We haven't seen her
Oh.
for ages.
Amanda. Is she the one that starred in the Amanda Show?
No.
Or was that another Amanda?
No, she's the really wonderful one that we liked from what's that place that made this happen?
That place that made this happen.
Yeah. Jolene. She was. Why did we do Fausty?
Oh, because we
My
were
brain's
asked if we could do a paranormal TV show for a paranormal TV network called to Keep On Chatting, Keep Paranormal something. I believe
Yeah.
it was.
Well,
wasn't it?
Jolene's the pretty one from there.
Festival of the Unexplained. There we go.
Jolene's the very beautiful one.
Jolene's the pretty
who
one.
keep promising to come on Fausty, but hasn't yet.
Be like Jesus, Our Lady of Snakes says. Go on adventures with 12 unmarried men. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean,
why they got to be unmarried?
It wouldn't bother me if they were married. I mean, at the end of the day, it just means no commitment, no strings attached, doesn't it? They've got a family to go home to. They ain't going to outstay their welcome, you know?
There might be bodily fluids on everything again, though.
If you were to spend the night with 12 unmarried men, or a married man, would you cook them breakfast the following day? Or would you just...
Depends how good they were.
Oh, is that how it works?
That's how it works.
Oh. What breakfast?
They weren't very good. They'd gone way before breakfast.
Does it matter on the quality of the night before versus what type of breakfast did they get? So if it's really good, do they get pancakes or something? And if it's really bad, they just get a bit of porridge that's not even warmed up?
No, they only get breakfast if they were good.
Okay, so they only get breakfast if they're good. And do they all get the same breakfast? Is it what you would normally have for breakfast? What do you eat? We all want to know what Chris has for breakfast. What would you eat for breakfast?
Well, the last couple of days, I've had Swiss muesli, but that's because I've been away in the Cotswolds for 2 days.
Okay. Were you doing magical, troublesome things, or is this something we can't talk about?
So, but no, I wasn't doing magical things. I was learning a new craft. I was lace making.
Do you see what Our Lady of Snakes for? How good could they possibly be? Surely Chris only has so many holes.
Well, there are lots of reasons. How many of them get to stay for breakfast will be depending on how many are actually any good.
How many of them were actually any good?
Yeah.
So how would it work?
You don't have to keep all 12, Liam. It's not an either-or situation. It's a case of how many of them make it to morning, or how many of them are kicked out beforehand.
I thought it was when you used to go to, like, the council office or the post office, and you had to take a ticket, and then they call out your number. It's not how you work.
No.
No?
This isn't that wouldn't be a Chris marathon.
You can serve multiple customers at one time.
I'm a multitasker, Liam. I can sort plenty.
Multitasker. Cheating, that's an orgy. It's an audition. Oh.
It is an audition. It's every time anybody has sex with me, it is an audition as to whether or not they're going to get a role in life or if they're never going to be invited back again. It's quite simple.
Or whether they get breakfast.
So, getting breakfast is part of being invited back again.
So that's basically your golden ticket. If you get breakfast, you know you're going to be invited back.
Maybe.
Or does that just mean that that's entry onto your Rolodex? Is that what they call it? They don't have Rolodexes now. Roster?
Roster.
What is it? Roster, yes. You get access to you get put on the roster. A bit like Britain's Got Talent, get rid of the rubbish ones and bring on the next. Yes. Yes. Anyway, we're talking about
Rosicrucians.
we're talking about the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. We're talking about ceremonial magicians and Rosicrucians, and we're not talking about Satanists. Those atheists who like to have sex in robes. We're talking about serious magic now. So tell us a little bit about some serious magic or something that could be classed as the part that would be the educational part, right? Give us a real education, not of the classical sort, of the magical sort.
Well, what do you want? You're better at secret societies than me. I don't get invited. They're all scared of me.
Have you never been invited to a secret society?
Told you this before? No.
Never, ever.
No.
Not even one of the shit ones, like the Masons.
No.
Really?
No. What?
Did you get offered a chance to go to the Buffaloes?
Well, I'd naturally get invited there, but that doesn't count. It's no secret society. It's working man's Freemasons. Don't think so.
Yeah, basically. It's not even as good as Freemasons. It's a cheap imitation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's working class version.
Working class Freemasons. Wow, absolutely why? So no charity from you too. Charity? What's that got to do with anything? What's charity got to do with that? I haven't spoken to Charity for ages. I wonder what she's up to. Probably dancing.
Anyway, what were you tell me?
Well, the educational section. If we've got an aspiring young or old, let's be fair, I presume all ceremonial magicians are born with a beard, right?
Probably.
A young old.
I don't think the archivist could grow a beard.
No, I don't think the archivist could grow a beard. That would be some magic. So a young, aspiring, old ceremonial magician is wanting to learn the path of ceremonial magics and how to do all sorts of crazy-ass high-level magical stuff, because they're all about the high magic, aren't they? And we're not talking about the getting high on drugs type high. That's the shamans. We're talking about the high as in, high and mighty type. Big level stuff. Not this bullshit money magic, wanna manifest me a man type stuff. Wanna fuck about with things on a multi-dimensional universal level, innit? So what would you suggest they start?
Well, first of all, don't join the Golden Yawn. Even in its heyday, I wouldn't invite you to go.
Or the bad one?
Oh.
The bad one, but the old one, they seem to have a very long curriculum. Like it would take you a year before you even did anything, and it was just like the Lesser Banishing Ritual, the Pentagram, and learning a bit of fucking Hebrew. I mean, you imagine how long it takes for us if we've got a year of intense training with someone, isn't it? It would be the sort of thing that those old Greeks used to write about, It would be like the, insert person's name here Odyssey.
No, I don't know. It's not that I don't like high magic. I do deal with a fair amount of it. I just don't particularly like ceremonial magic.
Why?
I feel like it's too much
dressing up.
I don't like dress up.
But that's not true. Like, you've designed like fancy clothes and shit like that before. I'd have thought with you and all of your experience with textiles and stuff, I thought you'd jump up the chance that, making a dozen different robes for different occasions and ceremonies and shit.
No.
No?
No.
What appeals to you the least about ceremonial magic? Is it that
long-winded rituals.
Long-winded rituals.
In dead languages.
Lines, like Shakespeare, memorizing lines.
And all the dead languages. Not so keen.
I thought you liked dead languages.
I like dead languages, but I don't feel the need to cast spells in dead languages.
Do you just cast spells in Northern or Midlands talk?
Midlands talk?
Midlands talk, talking about the yams and such.
I'm so not a fucking yam.
I know, but that's who you'd cast spells on, innit? I mean, what are you going to ward away? What have you got in the Midlands in regards to, fae, gnomes, anything like that to get rid of yams, presumably.
They're all manner of fae. That's why they're all so fucked up.
What?
But no,
fae?
I just
Because they're hanging around with people from the Midlands, or the Midlands because there's so many fae. I mean, that's a difficult one to answer, isn't it?
the yams. That's why the yams are so fucked up. That's why the yams drink so much. Is all the fae.
What's your best witchcraft charm for warding against yams?
Warding against normally a pint of Thatcher's. That seems to scare all those bitter and ale drinking yams. They're not so good with the cider. That's
Would it
southern
not be
pansy
better
shit.
just to put warding up in the form of a sign that says no alcohol beyond this point? Or do they just see that as a target? I don't know.
That would just be seen as a challenge.
Oh, a challenge, I see. So the Lady of Snakes, Our Lady of Snakes, I don't know if she is related to Lady Snake, who recently passed away. Lady Snake, I found the ceremonial approach boring. They don't do enough practical magic and seem to discourage experimentation. That's really interesting, actually, because the whole idea normally within ceremonial magic is to reduce things and literally like list things. So you take account into every single aspect of how a piece of magic works or an operation works. So the idea of breaking everything down, if you turn it into a ceremony, every single component part in that ceremony must therefore do something, which means if you change it and measure the outcome and such. I always thought ceremonial magicians were very, very, very big on experimentation. But like with anything, you can say that witches are very much has-beens that copy and paste everything from, Llewellyn books and that, which, as we know, is not true. There's a lot of witches out there that tend to get involved with experimentation. And there's the crazy lot that just rock up at a random stone circle or pub and just start doing whatever the hell they like. I think that's what our friend Lady Poison and Mr. Railroad do, isn't it? They don't know what they're going to do until they just go and do it. See what happens, isn't it? I can see the chessboard of the Freemasons, and we all know the Queen protects the King. That sounds very occulty, petulant one. There's a big thing of chessboards at the moment. Our Lady of Snakes and seems skewed towards the wealthy that can afford. Yes, that is a very, very good point, because you did see that, didn't you, historically, where you see the poor, cunning folk, wise men, woman, all that kind of thing that are practicing the sort of witchcraft. Tell me who's got my sheep. Where's my sheep's gone? I'll get old Farmer John to get old Gretel down the road, the wise woman, and she can tell me what happened to my sheep, isn't it? Yeah. And then you've got kind of like the Queen, at the time. Let's say Queen Elizabeth, the first one, not the great, the first one. She died and went, she the second one. Who appointed a court astrologer / magician like John Dee. I mean, he wasn't that good. He wasn't that good at magic, was he? He were quite good at the sciences, but magic wasn't really his forte, bless him.
I'm not even sure he was all that good at alchemy, to be fair.
I don't know, but is anyone actually good at alchemy?
Well, there is that.
I mean, all the ones that are good at alchemy are so fucking good, you don't know whether they're real or myths. I mean, look at Saint Germain. Was he real? Was he not real? Eyewitness testimony suggests that he was. Eyewitness testimony suggests that he was very, very old and did not seem to age. But there we go. Yam. Yes, yam. It's a thing. Our American friends won't know about it, but I'm sure if you're from the Midlands, you would know all about the yams and how they need to be warded against.
Do not need to be warded against.
Well,
so
won't they
rude.
steal the hubcaps from your car? Isn't that what they do? I don't know. What do they do? Ruffians, I thought. Faust was a fictitious ceremonial magician, wasn't he? Faustus Blackwood.
No, I think he means the original Faust.
The original Faust. What, the original Fausty one?
Yes. one who makes all those Faustian deals.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'd have said Faust was a ceremonial magician. He worked with the devil for starters. You don't get many ceremonial magicians that kind of go devil way.
Well, on the contrary, if you look at woodcuts, they're popular in Troy books and other such books on traditional witchcraft. They always seem to have woodcuts of people with a stick in a circle conjuring up folk-looking devil things. So maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That might be ritual. Is that a ritual or a ceremony? What's the difference between a ritual and a ceremony? I mean, you can repeat a ritual. It's kind of morning rituals. You kind of do repeat rituals.
Ceremonies tend to be as part of a initiation situation. So a ceremony would be marking something, whereas a ritual could be anything that's repeated.
So basically, all these Wiccans that do fuck all, apart from drink cakes and ale and celebrate the solstices in the same way every year, they're really just ceremonial magicians. Because they just do ceremonies.
Who?
These Wiccans.
Oh.
The ones that does the Wheel of the Year, you know, that ancient thing that's not ancient.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the first bit of that. I wasn't listening. Oh. I was reading something else.
Chris, don't you know that if all of the Wiccans were to die and there was no one to celebrate the Wheel of the Year would not therefore turn, and therefore we wouldn't have seasons anymore?
Really?
Well, I read it in the Llewellyn
book. Who are you trying to sell that to?
Anyone on Amazon that's willing to part with, I don't know, what is it, a Llewellyn book these days? $8.99, $12.99, something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that. Says Bristolian, Chris jinx him. That doesn't make any sense. There is absolutely no fucking context for that, petulant one.
You saying rude things about the yam yams is, I think, when that was written.
Yam yams. In Lady Snake, who finally died after her last Horcrux was destroyed and succeeded by Charles. Oh gosh, who is this person? Oh, and it's well known that Gardner based his religion on things he mopped up from ceremonial magicians. Gardner took anything that could not run away fast enough, Our Lady of Snakes. Anything and everything. Apart from the nudity that I think he thought of all along his own son.
But no, Wicca's not really based on that. Is not based on ceremonial magicians anyway. Wicca's based on trying to re-amalgamate some kind of Christian dichotomy with something of the ancient mysteries, of which he had no connection to whatsoever. It was kind of Graves and his white goddess.
You heard it here first, kids. Chris, it's almost like you have no respect for the man. Or
I have absolutely no respect for Gardner, you know that.
What about the other famous Wiccans, Alexander's and such?
I don't mind Sanders to an extent.
He was more ceremonial magician-y.
He was more ceremonial magician-y. So,
what about the Cochranites? What do you think of them?
Well,
at least they know how to keep their mouth shut.
But that's mainly because they're a pen pal organisation that's gone a bit over the top.
Well, that harkens back to the days of Bedknobs and Broomsticks and Mary Poppins and such, and correspondence. I mean, there is something truly magical, I think, about receiving a penned, handwritten letter in the post divulging magical secrets that you don't really fully understand, because you don't know the person that you're corresponding to, whether they're actually on a psych ward and just fucking crazy and coming out with all sorts of psychobabble crap, or whether they are a true occultist. I think that's one of the wonderful things about true occultism, is that to your everyday person, you're going to sound crazy. I mean, people find the astral world a crazy concept, but any magical practitioner that's been there would understand, wouldn't they?
I think they just took the cryptic crossword in the Times a little bit too seriously, that's all.
What, you think that all of the Cochrane letters are cryptic crosswords that just went a little bit out of hand?
A little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, just a smidge.
Have you ever read any of them?
Nah.
Right. So you're basing this on what?
The fact that it's all about red cords, that just is enough to
Oh.
put me off.
I thought that you were basing it on the comedic value. I thought a certain pair of poisons was a Cochrane type. Certain pair of poisons. He did kill himself with a poison, didn't he?
No, I think Our Lady of Snakes is referring to the Lady of Poisons.
Oh, the Lady of Poisons. Oh, pair of poisons is in Lady Poison, as in a pair of ours, as in a friend.
Mm.
Yes. I believe that she is from a secret Cochranite-esque tradition. Well, we know she's Welsh. I know she don't sound like it, but she pretends. She either pretends to be Welsh or she's pretending not to be Welsh. I don't know. Is it a
I think
bluff
it
or a
depends.
double bluff or whatever it is?
I think it depends on what side of the border she's on. I think she's a double agent.
She talks about being Welsh. She doesn't sound Welsh. And she talks about being Welsh far too much, which one would assume that therefore means that she's pretending to be Welsh. But if she was Welsh and pretending to be Welsh in order to put people off the scent, that's what you would do, wouldn't it?
I suppose.
Mm.
Double agent, I'm going for.
Hey guys, whenever I watch you, it seems like you are poo-pooing on something. Wicket, GD, Llewellyn, what magic do you like? I would love to hear about that. Yes, that is very, very true. That is what the Fausty Witches show is all about, hence why it's kind of Fausty. Not just because by the very nature of you listening to us, you are entering into a deal that you know nothing about on a level that you cannot see or understand. But there is a question. What magic do you like? Chris, you're very into textile magic, aren't you? Textile magic is truly ancient.
Mm. Yeah, I like textile magic. Also loving the weather magic. Those always excite me. They're an oldie but a goodie.
You're very much into the classical witchcraft, the classical magic period, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
But they did a lot of ceremonies and such. I mean, all these great priests, priestesses, and all that sort of thing. Oracle of Delphi and all that. Not the little Delphi, the new one, the old one. The one that sat on the tripod and got high. That one.
Yes.
That was magical, ceremonial, in fact.
The Oracle of... No, you can't claim that as ceremonial. You're stretching a fucking string there.
Ritualistic, then?
Just because something's ritualistic is not therefore ergo ceremonial magic. Ceremonial magic is quite specifically, and you know it, ceremonial magic is about spirit communication and higher magic. So,
you mean it's not about growing beards?
Which is why I have an argument. That's why I argue with the fact that you're trying to make out, or not you, but somebody in comments making a comment that Gardner is in any way, shape, or form a ceremonial magician. They very ritualistic way of practicing, but it's a bit of a stretch. But you just said that to trigger me, I'm sure.
It worked though, didn't it?
It worked very well.
It always works. There's magic in that. There's magic in that.
Ritualistic magic is not automatically, in any way, shape, or form, ceremonial. Ceremonial magician is a particular class of practice that is all about spirit communication. And I use that term, people thinking, oh, they just mean no. The whole part of it is about spiritual communication, down to their ritual circles, their laying of protections, where each layer is an evocation or an invocation. Those are all spirit communication methodologies that are all kind of sandwiched together in order to create something. The bit I really want okay, we'll get to that bit now. The reason I really hate ceremonial magicians in general, as a group, tends to be down to that. It's about being able to call on something using a magical word. And that I struggle with as a concept, on the basis that these aren't words they've created. they are words that have been kind of received.
Mm.
And bearing in mind, you know how I feel about first translation. So, I'm very much a case of, if you don't understand the language, stop fucking using it. Use a language that you actually understand. So, translating a list of words that you think, and then translating it into Egyptian using Google Translate or any other language that you don't actually know, and expecting that to work, I find problematic. And that's why I get on my soapbox, is because 9/10 of ceremonial magicians play with languages they don't understand. And that I find rather triggering.
But if they spend a year trying to learn them, does that therefore mean that they do know them? Because if you look at the Hermetic of the Golden Dawn, if you're spending a year learning Hebrew, does that therefore mean that it's useful? Because they would say, yes, it's more magical because of the vibrations and shit.
It's useful, but you should use it at the level that you understand it. You can't then go, I'm going to use ancient Hebrew words that I sort of understand because I've been studying Hebrew for a few years. The only people really that should be using Hebrew in their practice are probably those that are descendants of Jews and actually have learned, and the language is part of their life. Like, even if you're at, I feel like even if, yeah, I feel like if you were even if you're a translator and have learned, say, a foreign language to a really high standard, you don't think in that language necessarily, unless you're bilingual and it's been part of your upbringing, where you interchange between multiple languages because that's been your growing up as a person. That I kind of understand, because you will think in multiple languages depending on situation or what group of friends are around you. You will think in that language. I personally don't feel you should be using a language you don't think in. So if you're having to transliterate in real time to understand the ritual you are currently doing, means that you're not focusing on the magic, you're focusing on the language. So to me, you're never going to get the results you'll get if you are doing magic in your own language. And whatever you consider your own language to be is entirely up to you. But I would normally say it's the one you think in, which, like I say, is tricky for those that are bilingual. But yes, I don't see, even if you are, and this is how far I will go, even if you are breaking a spell in another language. So say you go into, I don't know, an unopened tomb in some foreign land, some ancient tomb. You don't need to learn the language of that time to break anything relating to it.
Or
what you need to be able to do is understand the magic.
Yeah, which you don't do by reading the tomb walls and trying to get your Egyptology book out or whatever book it is and say blah blah blah. You look at the magic, you look at it like you can see it, there. You can see and feel the hum and read the energetic signature of it there. And it's why
I'd even go as far as saying what's particularly different about ourselves is that we don't think in words. Most of what we think of from a practice point of view is in magic. So we have to apply the language afterwards, because actually to us a lot of our practice is like breathing. So actually I don't think, which is why often there's a delay when me trying to explain something, is not because it's trying to find the words to explain what I do without thinking. So therefore there isn't a language to it. You're just manipulating matter.
One thing that I see from teaching ceremonial magicians and teaching witches and people from that kind of path is this idea that you see mirrored quite a lot in pop culture, which is the idea of there are just some magical words like abracadabra, and the magic is the word. Something goes on and you say the word and it's magical. A lot of beginner ceremonial magicians and witches both think that. That's what they've been programmed to think. They think, I need to say that word, or if I don't say this in Hebrew, or if I don't say this in, let's be fair, it's modern ancient Egyptian, because they don't fucking know what that actually sounded like. It's just a modern interpretation, an idea. But they say, oh, well, you need to say it like this, because the magic is in the words and the vibrational correspondence and such like that, which is obviously bullshit. You know, it makes for very weak magic. I mean, you can utilize stuff like that, things, whether it be sigils or whether it be words and stuff that retain a certain amount of energy, but that is the equivalent of coasting your car by pushing it. You're pushing the car, not switching the engine on, just going by a carried charge that's already there. That's very poor. It actually works a lot better if you put your key in the ignition and turn it, or press the fucking start button and actually start the car up, which is where you get a lot of this bullshit from some magical practices that are very old, but that the people that are practicing them do not understand how they actually work. So they're going by being able to cobble together and using the car to get them from A to B, but they use the car like fucking something out of the Flintstones. You know, they're just using the fact that this wall basically got wheels, so they push it, jump in, and hope they're going down a hill, rather than using the internal combustion engine. I see that so much with people that adapt and look at these rituals, whether it be ceremonial magic rituals, whether it would be, you know, that they get from a grimoire or something, or whether it would be, you know, recreationalist stuff. They look at it and they kind of don't really get the magical side of things. Have we got any questions? The Welsh do talk about being Welsh a lot, nearly as much as the Scots. I can't remember a time when the Scots have talked about being Welsh, but I know the Welsh were talking about being Italian at one point. I learned that from a Pot Noodle advert, so don't quote me on it.
Just to go back to, sorry, I've forgotten his name. I didn't know the person. Going back to kind of what Josh is saying, a lot of what, yes, this is the Fausty. So obviously this is designed to be a mixture of educational but highly wind up and fun. You know, this is a fun. If you want the bit where we're actually talking real magic, then you need to go and get on listening to the podcast, the No Holds Barred. That's where you're going to get your brain tested as to what magic we talk about quite frequently, but you're not going to get that from Fausty. It's not designed for that. We still throw the gems out there. You just need to be able to pick up the breadcrumbs as we go. And actually, what we do, I suppose the best way to put it is, I don't particularly have a problem with any practitioner. What I don't like is when we are generalized to the point that I mentioned witchcraft earlier today, and before the person had even finished the question that was about to come out of their mouth, I felt the need to go, not Wiccan or any of that new age bullshit, like, because they'd already started to formulate questions in their brain to ask me that were related to those things. To the point that I've started saying, none of those new agey crystal bearing people. I'm the person you come to if you want to kill off your husband. And that's how I've started to kind of have to separate myself in order so I don't have to answer stupid questions about things I'm not interested in. So it's less about kind of poo-pooing on somebody else's practice. There were some very good ceremonial magicians. I don't like the modality of ceremonial magic. That doesn't mean it's not valid if you're going to push it to its nth degree, but we're also going to point out all the things that we find wrong with it. So the things that we particularly find wrong with it are things like the fact of people practice it without understanding anything about ceremonial magic, other than what they've seen in a book, which is normally a diagram. Now, Liam just gave a really great example with the abracadabra. People think the word abracadabra is magical because there are a couple of grave goods and a couple of grimoires that have a triangle with abracadabra written in it. What they fail to understand, and we've talked about this a lot in the podcast and stuff, fail to understand is abracadabra is just a made-up phrase that is held as an example of what you do. But people don't look at what's actually happening in the magic. What they do is replicate what they think should be because someone else did it. But the point is, the person actually never used the word abracadabra, except in the context of, well, I can't write the real word or the real sentence on something that can be found. What I'm going to write is a nonsense word that in some way, shape or form to the practitioner who made the abracadabra charm out of metal and buried it in a corpse or whatever it was to do it with that particular practice is hidden in plain sight. And I think this is the bit that gets us frustrated and why it sounds like we're shitting on everybody else's practice. It's because the best examples out there are of shit practice.
Yeah.
They're the ones you see most.
Josh did say about what magic do you like. Obviously, you work with a lot of textiles and woodwork textile magic because that is a medium that you like and find fun and enjoyable. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we would both fall under the category of finding the art and science is blended perfectly within magic. Therefore, what we look at is we look at artists. Like if you are a musician that is a musician that plays in a rock band, doesn't mean that you can't appreciate Mozart. If you're a musician and you really go that deep, you would understand music is mathematics. So when we look at magic, it's very important. We don't really care what form it comes in. Our loyalty is to the practice of magic at a higher level. So it doesn't matter where on the world or what background you're from, or whether it's religion, whether it's folk magic, whereas what we don't care, as long as it is a beautiful form at working at a level that you look at it like an engineer looks at a car and thinks, wow, that's a piece of art. That isn't just a car. A Bugatti Veyron is a piece of art, for example, you might say, compared to some shit Porsche or a Renault Megane or something. But in terms of obviously looking at that, the most important thing to remember, which is something that never gets talked about, I don't think, is that if you are a magical practitioner and you have a basic understanding, a foundation in magic, and most people don't, unfortunately, when you look at someone else do magic, when you look at a ritual or ceremony or anything like that, you don't need to understand the language. You don't need to speak the language, the tongue of the people that are doing that ritual. You can understand the ritual. If I go over to the other side of the world and they're doing some kind of a healing ritual and I don't speak their language, but I watch with all of the eyes and senses, I can see, oh, this is necromancy. They don't tell me that. They just do a bunch of stuff in some sort of ritual, but I feel the energy. Oh, look, ancestors are coming in. Oh, look, it's their blood. You can see it. You can sense it. It's magic. That is the problem with initiation, is the fact that you don't need to be initiated in any tradition to steal the secrets of that tradition. All you need to do is watch it. If you've got the basic understanding of being able to see, sense, and understand energy, it's only when you come across an energy you cannot read or understand that then is an area for you to look at for progression. You think, well, I've not come across this before. I need to spend some time understanding this. But in general, I mean, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're from or what your heritage is. When dead people start coming in, it's going to feel like dead people are going to start coming in. If they're starting to work in the astral, they're working in the astral. If they've got a specific manifestation, a hex or something like that they're firing, or some sort of nefarious magic, and they're using it on a level of transmuting energy and pushing it towards someone using, I don't know, a fetish or, I don't know, look of hair or something like that, then that is a standard. Might look different depending on what they're using, whether it's a doll, puppet, bit of skin, bit of nails, the name of the person, but it works. There is no such thing as they say as Canadian mathematics. What that means is maths is universal, as magic is universal. The language often, as you've said before, basically just keeps people dumb, doesn't it? It stops, it makes you hide, it makes you able to hide things by putting it into language, because when you condense things into language, you can't read it unless you can read the language, which is why we make such a big deal of teaching people magic. Not teaching people a magical system. We don't do that. We teach people magic, how they can identify, see it, sense it, feel it, manipulate it. So we've got, didn't say Gardner was ceremonialist, but the early Wiccan exchange parts of the world seemed very similar to things from the Golden Dawn system. Again, you know, Gardner was cobbling something together. He claims to have inherited it from a coven of witches, but I think most people would say that's bullshit. But in the movies, all the witches cast spells in other languages, so shouldn't we? Yes, movies are bullshit a lot of the time. I mean, are you going to learn magic from a movie? No, probably not. If you speak a ritual in your own language and voice, you're more responsible for it. You probably understand it a little bit more, but at the same time, some would say, as I've heard before, they like to divorce magic from normal, so magical from mundane. Some people are very big on doing that. Some people are very anti that. So they put on robes. They say that this is magic. I'm doing a magic ritual. I'm doing something special. It's a big mistake. Big mistake is that people that do that will think, well, if I use my everyday language, the next time I tell someone to go fuck off and die, or go fucking just fuck off, that then I am speaking a hex or something like that. In reality, I can go and fist bump someone like that. Yo, dude, fist bump someone, right? I'm not punching them. I'm punching them, but I'm not putting any force through it, even if I'm pretending to, you know? It's just a bit of play fighting, right? Same with magic. Now, if you're taught that you need to put on a magic robe or something like that, or the only time that you can, you know, work your magic, as very often this is the case, is when you need the correct apparatus, the tarot cards. Well, I can only see the future if I've got my tarot cards on me, or I can only do this on a certain day when a certain planet aligns or something like that, because that's what I was told. That's a weakness, and that needs to be looked at. And although there is such a thing when you're learning to ride a bike, you put stabilizers on your bike, the little training wheels, they have to come off at some point. Many people don't take them off.
And you may come off the bike and break your nose, but you'll get back on the bike.
You get back on the bike, yeah.
Before you go into the next one, Liam, I just want to hit the other part of what Michelle's saying there, which is the responsibility part, which I do think to a certain extent with some ceremonial practitioners, that is part of it too. If it's by using that name and invoking that entity, there is part of it from their perspective, I think they see as that's them protecting by using the name and calling upon fucking Gabriel to stand there.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm not responsible for the shields. The shields are responded to by that individual, or that particular item is being wielded by, you know, Samuel. But, you know, kind of one of those kind of things. And I think part of that is it. I think what we've tried to remind people whenever we've talked about ceremonial magic in the past is that concept of, do you have a relationship with the name you're calling? Because if you don't, why the fuck would they turn up? And secondly, using them in that kind of way where you're stamping over your auras and magical spaces with somebody else's name is giving somebody else ownership to that space, not you, which is why I struggle with ceremonial magics when you think about sovereignty of practice. Like, I don't see how you could be a sovereign kind of nation as a practitioner and then be calling in all these others in order to be, how would you normally say it, Liam? Big Bubba's
bitch from prison. But Chris, it's like the playground at school where someone goes and picks on someone and then runs away and hides behind their big brother or big sister or something like that and says, "Oh, he's bullying me." It's like, no, wait a minute. You were going and bullying that kid. You were trying to force him to do something naughty. You were trying to force that spirit to do something naughty and then try to constrain that spirit and threatening it and saying that you've got an older brother that's going to beat you up. Hail Michael, Archangel Michael's going to beat you up. You know, it's all like cooking, Chris. It's like cooking, right? It's something that you'll see this in magic, modern magic, old magic. Don't matter what fucking century you're in, it always resorts back to cooking. And I'm not just saying that because I'm hungry and at me tea. There's this thing, we may be familiar with them, I hope that you're not, called ready meals, yeah? You get them, they're cheap shit, and you bung them in the microwave. That is the equivalent of buying a spell book or one of those Lucky Mojo oils or floor scrubs or a witch's shop candle for a luck magic or money magic or something like that. Basically, you light the fucker and all the magic's done for you. You've just got to bung it in the fucking microwave. You don't really need to understand it. You just select the ready meal you like. Rather disgusting lasagna or pasta or chicken tikka masala or something. Read the instructions. Okay, 2.5 minutes. Take it out, mix it, put it back in. Another 2.5, 3 minutes. Right? They don't fucking do that because, Chris, some of these people can't even follow simple fucking instructions. They just put it in for the full 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes, don't they? They don't take it half out and mix it around so it cooks evenly. They don't know enough about that, even though the fucking ritual that was designed. Anyway, next section, we have people that follow a Jamie Oliver recipe, you know, or a Gordon Ramsay recipe or something like that. Basically, they think they know a little bit, Chris. They think they know how to cook because they're told, well, wait a minute. And they often look down on the others because they look down, oh, those people with the ready meals with all their congealed processed shit. They paid far much more money for this. I bought the raw ingredients. I chopped the fucking onion up. Therefore,
I've got an avocado.
I chopped the onion up, right? And then Jamie Oliver tells them, okay, chop the onion up. Yeah, add this, add that. Okay, now you're going to put that in the oven, right? But I did all the chopping myself, right? This is the level that you're normally talking about, particularly with a lot of these occult teachers out there. Copy and paste. It's still copy and paste. They didn't make the recipe themselves. Every now and then, they're smart enough to think, I haven't got no fucking oregano, so I suppose I'll put something else in. But they didn't invent lasagna. They didn't invent the thing that they're talking about. Then you've got actual chefs, okay? These are the actual people that do proper magic, you know? Things that we try to teach. They understand the science of cooking, the temperature, you know, how different types of flavors, a myriad of different flavors, and how they complement each other, not just from the fact that it's food, but the wine that you choose to go with it, right? All of that, they understand that. That is an art. And you know what? They understand every fucking level of everything they're doing. They do it and they make wonderful fucking meals, like amazing meals, right? Based on your palate, what you like, what you don't like. They just look in the cupboard and they think, oh, I can think of a dozen meals that I can cook with this. Okay. And then they come up with those meals and they write them down in notebooks, right? Kind of like this one. It's one of mine. And then they fucking die. And then some, I don't know, person comes along and thinks, oh, the secret spell notebook. Look, what's in the secret spell notebook? Oh my gosh, it's got all sorts of high level magics and stuff like that in. And they'll try and understand it, but they'll make a rather shit lasagna. And then they'll copy and paste that shit lasagna. And then they'll basically just disseminate it out, and then it gets watered down and watered down and watered down, and then they think that chef, all they could cook was that lasagna recipe, and in reality that chef just noted it down because it was kind of an amusing thing. Anyway, it's like cooking, Chris. Yes, the website is down because it's being rebuilt at the moment, so it launches next year, the new one. You can find us in the Witchcraft Live Facebook group, or in the No Holds Barred Witchcraft Facebook group. Or you can find us on Patreon, Thoth Witchcraft Patreon. Someone's enjoying my rant, by the way. Enjoying this rant, Liam. Thank you very much. I get set off every now and then. And I think we've got one more. I can do magic in the kitchen. Baking is a science and cooking is an art. Yes. I can't do much, but I'm renowned for tricks in the kitchen. Kitchen witchery. Have you got anything you'd like to finish off with, Chris? Because we've been here for an hour now.
Yeah, we best be off. No, not really. I think ultimately, just to kind of re-hit Josh's point from earlier again, but to kind of go, Fausty is about you guys. It's live for a reason. If you want to know different things than what we're actually talking about, or you're bored of the rant, or, not that you'll ever turn down one of mine or Liam's rants, but, we can change the direction. We try and keep a loose theme for the session, but ultimately that's the kind of beauty of the Fausty, is that we're here in real time. So you can actually interact with us a bit more. But ultimately, no, new website is exciting. And the podcast you can go through Thoth TV for that. The back catalogue's on there for the first half. But obviously you need to join the Patreon in order to get the second half, because they are an hour and sometimes more. But you only get the half an hour on Thoth TV. So it's there.
The dang. That's the condensed, polite version. So if you find that it's a little bit too much on Thoth TV, you certainly won't like the Patreon, where we say names and such and talk about naughty things that people get up to and other such things. Anyway, that's it for another week. We've only got 2 more of these, and then it's the end of season 2. Can you believe it?
Crazy.
Goodbye, everyone.